Thank you very much once again to welcome you to Mason African Motives. So now I want us to do life orientation grade 10, term 1 notes. I want us to do term 1 notes. So let's quickly go to chapter 1. So we are mainly going to look at the development of the self in society. So we are going to talk about the strategies to develop self-awareness, self-esteem, as well as self-development. So 1.1, we're going to talk about what the concepts. So self-awareness now. With self-awareness, when you're talking about self-awareness, we're talking about knowing your interest, strengths, weakness, and values. As it says, how good you know yourself, that your interest, skills, strengths, and weakness, likes and dislikes, or goals, values, and beliefs. For example, knowing that you are good at drawing but struggle with maths. So that is a self awareness. You know your strengths, you know your weakness, you know you are good at maths, but you're good at drawing, but you're struggling with maths. But with self-esteem, it's about how much you like yourself and how confident you are. That is that. That is self-esteem. For example, feeling proud of your school project and believing you can do well. That is how much you like yourself and how confident you are. But with self-development now, self-development is about improving yourself by building strengths and fixing weakness. You improve yourself by building your strengths and fixing weakness. Let's make an example, taking extra math lessons to improve your marks. So that is a self development. You improve yourself, you fix your weaknesses. That is why it is how you improve yourself by building up your strengths and improve your weaknesses. Develop your skills and become the best person you can be. So now let us move on to factors now. Factors that influence self-awareness and self-esteem. As it says, what other people say about you. The first factor that you're talking about that influences the self-awareness and self-esteem is that what other people say about you. Meaning to say, we are saying others' opinions affect how you see yourself. Others' opinions opinions affect how you see yourself, how you see yourself. Others' opinions eh, affect how you see yourself. For example, a teacher saying you are good at reading boosts confidence. That's what we are trying to say. Then another factor is that what happens in your life, what happens in your life. Meaning to say, life events change how you think about yourself. Life events change how you think about yourself. Life events changes how you think about yourself. For example, winning an award makes you feel capable. That is that. So another factor is how well you cope with challenges. How you cope with challenges. For example, your reaction to problems affects confidence. Your reaction to problems affects your confidence. Affects confidence. So, for example, solving a difficult task makes you feel stronger. That is how well you cope with challenges. That is another factor. We are talking about your reaction to problems affects your confidence. So if you can be able to solve difficult tasks, that is going to make you feel strong. How now you respond to success and failure. Meaning success increases confidence. Success increases confidence and failure may decrease it. Failure may decrease it. For example, failing a test may lower confidence if you take it personally. Hope you understand how popular you are. So, support from friends affects self-esteem. For example, having many friends makes you feel accepted. That is what you're trying to say. The media, newspaper, magazines, TV, and all social media sources like Facebook and Mix It. So here we're talking about what the media influence. So social media, TV, magazines affect your self-image. For example, seeing a perfect body on Instagram may make you feel insecure. So that is that. Now we move on to strategies now. Strategies to build confidence in yourself and others. So we are going to talk about good communication skills, meaning speaking clearly, speaking clearly and respectively builds confidence, and respectfully builds confidence. That is when we're talking about what good communication. It's one of the strategies to build what? To build confidence. So if you speak clearly and respectfully, that builds confidence. For example, telling a teacher you need help politely. That is that. Assertive attitude. Assertive attitude. Meaning when you're talking about assertive attitude, you're saying what you want calmly. Assertive attitude, saying what you want calmly and respectfully. And respectfully. For example, telling your friend, I don't want to go there confidently. You are being assertive. You are being assertive. Show that assertive attitude, saying what you want calmly and respectively. So that is that. So you say what you want to say clearly, be positive and respectable, know what you want. Have a tall and straight bold posture and state your viewpoint clearly and be polite. That is that. So now let us move on to completing what? Complete task and project successful by managing your time effectively. So we are talking about managing time effectively. So here we are talking about being organized helps you complete tasks successfully. Being organized helps you complete helps you complete tasks successfully. So that is that. For example, using a timetable to balance schoolwork. That is that. That is managing your time effectively. That is when you can complete your task and projects successfully. Participate in a community organization. That is when now you are joining community organizations. You are joining community organization. Participation builds skills. Participation builds skills and confidence. And confidence. For example, joining a youth club or sports team. That is that. Also, make good decision. Make good decision. Thinking before acting builds self-respect. Thinking before acting builds self-respect. That example, choosing to study for a test instead of going out. That is making what? A good decision. That is when you're saying you evaluate the situation, get information about different options, consider consequences of each decision. Then you choose best option and then act on your decision. So that is that. Now let us move on. Let's move on. So now we are on power and gender. We are now on power and gender. So first we'll talk about these concepts where we have a term and as well as explanation. So we're first going to start by gender. So as it says, roles or behaviors or activities and qualities that society sees as suitable for men or women. That is, gender is learned and it is not a biological function. So, for example, society expecting women to cook. Society expecting women to cook. That's the example that we can make. Then we have another term here is sex under power and gender. So with sex, we're talking about a biological differences between males and females. As it says, biological quantities that define men and female. So for example, women can give birth, men cannot. That is always in biological difference between males and females. Then we have female and male. That is a grouping according to sex. Grouping based on. That is a grouping based on biological sex. For example, school registers separate boys and girls. That is a grouping according to sex that we're talking about. Feminine and masculine. Grouping according to gender. So we are talking about behaviors linked to gender. Behaviors linked to gender. For example, calling crime feminine and strength masculine. That is that. Now we are moving on to power relations. Power relations. As it says, sharing power between people in a relationship, you may have a dominant and submissive partner in a relationship. So dominance is often determined by gender and sex. Men have traditionally more power than women. So when you talk of power relations, we're talking about sharing of power in relationships. One may be dominant and the other one may be submissive. For example, a man controlling how money is spent in the home. That is that. So now let us move on to differences between women and men. Differences between the woman and the man. The most obvious difference between sexes are biological in nature. And for example, we're going to talk about women and men. That is that. So we know very well women, biological, women, we talk of woman, that is biological abilities of females. For example, women menstruate. We know that women menstruate. That's what we're saying. We're talking about what? Biological abilities of females. So with men, we're talking about biological characteristics of males. We know men's don't menstruate. They don't. There is no menstruation in men, but men produce sperm like that. So with women now, again, ovaries that produce eggs. So women have ovaries that produce eggs, but men have what? Testicles that produce what? Sperm. That is that. But with women, they have two X chromosomes. Here they are, but men have one as well as Y chromosomes. That is what we say is XY, while women is XX. Vagina is inside the body with woman, but with men, penis is outside the body, while it's with woman is there inside. Women give birth, but you know very well that men don't give birth. Smaller and lighter with less bone mass. That is women, but men, you will see them, they are taller, heavier with more bone mass. Less upper body strength, but this one they have more upper body strength. More white blood cells, women. More red blood cells, that is men. Puberty starts 2 years before boys. Puberty starts 2 years after girls. That is that. So it means women, they are earlier than men when it comes to puberty. They first start 2 years before boys. Fertility lessens after the age of 35. Fertility till old age. So we mentioned no, after 35 years now, you can even see that they can even go to menopause at that age. But men, they can go up until 90 years when it comes to their fertility. Higher levels of hormone estrogen, higher levels of hormone testosterone, less body hair, more body hair. Skull is thinner and weaker, skull is thicker and stronger. You have to work harder to build muscle easily. So that is the difference that we're talking about with woman and man. So now we are on stereotypical views of gender roles and responsibilities. Stereotypical views of gender roles and responsibility. As it says, women may earn less than men for certain work. For example, a female teacher earning less than a male teacher. So that is that. Men are promoted to positions of power instead of women. So men promoted faster. So a man becoming manager while women with same skills is not. Men are allowed to smoke, drink, and have affairs in some society, while women are not. Men are allowed more risky behavior. For example, boys are allowed to drink or smoke, girls are not allowed. That is that. Male sports teams get more funding and media coverage than women teams. So what it means is that men's sports get more support, more funding for men's soccer teams than women's. That is reality. Women have to do more housework than men. So a mother doing all the cleaning, you see. Women play a larger role in parenting. So women are more involved in parenting. So mothers are expected to take children to the doctor. Some careers are traditionally seen as just for men. So some careers seen as male. Engineering seen as a main job. You see, that's what we are trying to say. So now let us move on to the influence influence of gender inequality on relationship and general well-being. So we are talking about effects of gender inequality. So like we're going to talk about sexual abuse and violence. Sexual abuse and violence. So that is that. As as it says, when people or girls are involved in relationship where power is not equal, men may decide on the conditions under which sex happens. So this may mean forced sex. So this is whereby now we're going to see what rape or forced sex. We're going to see rape or forced sex. Like I said, this includes rape, incest, and violent sexual acts. Some men are violent towards women and they beat them up. That is that. So now we come to teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy, for example, a girl falling pregnant due to peer pressure, like they say, peer pressure. Sometimes they lack what information, they lack education about this teenage pregnancy. Sometimes because of the poverty. The poverty can now push them to get into pregnancy early. You see, sometimes it's because of rape, forced to get pregnant to prove fertility. So that is that. Now we come to STIs, including HIV and AIDS. So girls are unable to insist on condom use. So women have no say in the use of protective measures. Age mixing in relationships, sugar daddies, sugar mummies, more than one partner, transactional sex, sex that is paid for, as well as rape can as well contribute to these STIs, as well as HIV and AIDS. So now let us move on. Now we come to chapter 2. Now we come to chapter 2, where we are going to talk about physical education, the fitness. So we're going to talk about the types of value of participating in exercise programs, types of fitness. So the type of fitness we are first going to talk about a cardiovascular fitness. So this is about a strong heart and lungs. We're talking about strong heart and lungs when you're talking about what? Cardiovascular fitness. As you can see here, the explanation here is strong heart and capillary vessels and large lung capacity. For example, jogging improves heart health. That is that. Then we also, there's in the types of exercise that is walking, dancing, cycling, aerobics, running, all those things. Then we have muscular strength. When we're talking about muscular strength, we're talking about strong muscles. We're talking about what? Strong muscles. That is strong muscles and tendons. So, for example, weightlifting builds strength. Weightlifting builds what? Strength. That is related to your what? Types of exercises that we can take. Weightlifting, step climbing, resistance exercises. Now we come to endurance. Endurance is about ability to exercise without getting tired. As it says, the ability to exercise for a long time without getting tired. So we can talk about long distance running. That is an exercise that you can take. As it says, cycling, jogging, swimming, it's one of those. Flexibility now. With flexibility, we are talking about ability to move joints freely. That is when you can say stretching or yoga. Ability to move your joints and use your muscles through the full range of motion. Then the exercises that we can talk about is this one, stretching, swimming, as well as yoga. So that is that. So that is about flexibility. So now we come to why regular physical activity. Benefits of it, of physical activity. reduces stress and worry and depression. So example, exercising after school relaxes you. It relaxes you. Also helps you to relax. Even jogging helps you sleep better. Makes you feel more confident. We're saying it builds what? Confidence. Improving in sports makes you feel proud. Helps you to sleep well. So if jogging helps you to sleep better, improves brain function. Exercises helps you concentrate in class. So that is that. That is that. So this is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. And make sure that you're going to share with those who are concerned. And please, grade 10, let's make sure that we hit the subscription button. Thank you.